India, which kicked off a mammoth election this week, the biggest the world has ever seen. Between now and when it wraps up in mid-May, we're going to bring you a series of reports shedding light on the issues and candidates. Today, the spotlight is on Narendra Modi, the front-runner to be India's next Prime Minister, since polls suggest his Hindu Nationalist Party will win. Chief Minister of Gujarat, he's seen by supporters as a dynamic and efficient leader who's made his state an economic powerhouse. But as Surabhi Tandon reports, he's also accused of having blood on his hands.
An economic miracle. That's what Gujarat calls its progress, claiming to be the only state in India to exceed double-digit growth over the last decade. We travel to the emerging automobile hub of Sanand, close to the state's capital city. Here, companies from all over the world are setting up factories in what they claim is India's most business-friendly environment. The state's improved infrastructure is credited to Narendra Modi, Gujarat's chief minister for the last 12 years. Polls suggest that he is most likely to become the next Prime Minister of India. Modi's popularity within the state remains unparalleled. Tonight, at the launch of his poetry book, he doesn't even need to talk politics with the audience. For the party that Modi belongs to, he is the only national leader who can bring them to power to form India's next central government.
Yes, 100%. Why? Because we know that he is the best person and he can run the country very well. Nobody can. No other person can.
But the beginnings of this national leader were humble. The son of a tea vendor, Modi hails from a small town in the north of Gujarat. In Vadnagar, he is considered a legend. Here, we met with the municipality president who showed us where Narendra Modi worked before he began his political career.
This over there is Modi's tea stall. His father used to own it. After school, Modi would come here and help his father. But Modi knows what a life of privation and sacrifice can be. He understands poverty. And in his vision for Gujarat, no one sleeps on an empty stomach. Meanwhile, look at the Congress party who are in power. And who's running it? The prince, Rahul Gandhi. He would not be able to tell you what poverty means.
Modi first joined politics with the RSS, a right-wing paramilitary Hindu nationalist group. In the past, they have become notorious for inciting violence against Indian Muslims. Today, they form the backbone of his party, the BJP. In 2002, communal riots in Gujarat resulted in the killing of almost 2,000 Muslims. Modi has been domestically and internationally criticized for not doing enough to protect this community. Shakila, a key witness of the riots, took us to one of the massacre sites where she saw 8 of her family members being killed in front of her very eyes.
This place reminds me of the family I lost. This is the place where our innocent children were burnt alive. My brothers, my mother, they were all set on fire. This is also the same place where they threw a 2-month-old baby into the fire. I hate coming back here.
In the last 12 years, neither Narendra Modi nor his government have offered an apology or any sort of compensation to the victims.
They say Modi has done a lot of good work in Gujarat. But what has he done? He's built a giant city, bridges, roads, cars. Apparently that's his big work. But a governor isn't supposed to discriminate between Muslims and Hindus. We're all Indian. So what's the good work he's done? The 2002 riots? Every man, woman, every child here will always remember what happened then. We cannot forget.
Gujarat also scores poorly on human development indices, shattering some of the myths around a shining, vibrant state. This has prompted many to ask, if Modi were to become Prime Minister, would all its citizens still be able to exercise their rights equally?
Now, for more on India's elections, I'm now joined on set by Jean-Luc Racine. He's a senior fellow at the Centre for South Asian Studies. Hello, thank you very much for coming in. Now, first of all, supporters of Narendra Modi consider him to be a very efficient leader, but being at the head of a state isn't quite the same as being at the head of a country. Does he really have what it takes?
Well, I mean, it's the right question, because we have to keep in mind that Modi has an image of being really a doer. Is willing better governance and less government, to quote from his own declaration. But certainly the type of growth he has been able to carry on in Gujarat during the last 12 years. First of all, other Indian states have done more or less the same. But Modi is a better communicator. Second, he has been able to manage Gujarat, if I may say so, facing a very discreet opposition. But of course, if he's supposed to become next Indian Prime Minister, the political context would be quite different, because most probably if he joined the main place in the Indian government, it would be through a coalition first, and there would be a solid opposition of various colors, not just from the left, but from regional parties. So it would be really a test in order to know if from an efficient chief minister will be able to be an efficient prime minister. That presupposes as well that he would be able to be a little more, how could I say, diplomat in his way to address the diversity of India.
Now, his campaign team want voters to believe that he's a real man of the people, but the money he's brought to the state, as far as I understand, has ended up in relatively few hands. Is that fair?
Once his image as a possible next prime minister has circulated, of course, quite a number of analysts have paid attention to the real story of Gujarat. So the growth is there, certainly, as in a few other Indian states, as I mentioned. But on the socio-economic indicators, then the cardboard is not as good in a number of issues, which could be on health, on the support to the families, and keeping aside, of course, what has been mentioned in the previous document about the question mark about the Muslim minority in India.
As we saw in the report, Modi is accused of having blood on his hands because of the Gujarat killings back in 2002. Is it fair to say that he's loved and loathed in equal measure? We obviously saw people in that report there still angry about what happened.
Yeah, well, we'll see once we get the result of the election on May 16th if he's equally loathed and loved. He has been able to crystallize most probably a significant section of the middle class which is really aspiring to a new type of India, which fits pretty well with the nationalist background of Nehru himself. And on the other hand, being himself, it has been shown in the film, coming from what's called in India a backward caste, he's also playing this card, trying to join the aspiring lower middle class or full-fledged middle class and a section of a depressed class and caste, as we said before. So this is the key of its political equation as far as the election is concerned. Let's see if it will be able to materialize it.
But he's certainly a divisive figure. Isn't that a bit of a risk for a country like India?
You know, the figure of Modi has drawn, of course, attention abroad. The US, because of some pressure groups about religious freedom, the US has rejected his visa application for years. But of course, a few weeks ago, the US ambassador decided to have a meeting with Modi. So, well, India is a democratic country. If he is elected prime minister, everyone will have to deal with him. It will not be a problem for the Chinese, whatever be the difficult relation between India and China, but the Chinese as well consider Modi as a doer. There are some Chinese investment in Gujarat. And the European Union has always sent signal that, we'll have to respect the opinion of the Indian electorate. So people will have to adjust, but the question mark raised by your first question, is someone who is able to be an efficient chief minister, would be able to manage India as well? It's really the big question mark.
I'm glad you touched on foreign relations and how they might consider him, because we're running out of time. But just quickly, is it fair to say the main issues in this election are the economy and corruption?
Clearly. And when we look at the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party manifesto, which has been released very, very, very late, there is just half a page on foreign policy and half a page on security, which is mixed for Modi. So here the question mark would be, it would be a divided mind between the strong nationalist ideologue on the one hand, and the leader meaning business, and business mean business with China and business also with Pakistan. If the Pakistan military accept to follow the Pakistan Prime Minister who want to extend some sort of trade normalization with its big neighbor from the east.
Okay, thank you very much, Jean-Luc Racine, for coming in to us here at France 24. And that's it for Focus. We're going to go to a short break now. I'll be back with a full news roundup in a few minutes' time. Do stay tuned.